What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that Love, Simon is no perfect movie. So, Love, Simon is about a closeted gay teen played by Nick Robinson who begins having online conversations with an anonymous classmate who is also in the closet. And as they continue their conversations together, Simon realizes he needs to reassess his relationship with his best friends and family and how he's affecting their views towards him by keeping such a big secret. I was a little worried about this movie having Greg Berlanti as a director just because he hasn't made that many movies in general, and his latest projects have been disappointing, to say the least. But here, his direction is really good at displaying the inner thoughts and feelings that Simon is bottling up. When he begins having conversations with this classmate who call themselves Blue, he at first imagines them by thinking of their hands typing on the keyboard and a disembodied mouth saying the things that they're writing, and he even begins to imagine what they might sound like based on the words that they use. And little minor details like that put us into Simon's perspective since he spends the entire movie trying to figure out who this person is. And when he starts suspecting other people, he tries imagining how they would sound if they were the ones writing these conversations. And that adds to the mystery too, because without giving anything away, it really could have been anyone. The writing is so realistic, and not just the fact that it's gender neutral. That was one thing that I really appreciated. But it also did a really tricky thing that I haven't seen in a movie before. It addressed the fact that it is hard to be bullied, just not just be gay, but just be bullied in general in school thanks to social media. But it takes it a step further by acknowledging the fact that keeping a secret like this can alienate you from your friends because technically you're not being honest with them. Nick Robinson as Simon, in my opinion, would make this movie worth watching even if everything else about the movie sucked. Not once did he ever feel like a stereotype. In fact, I think he was meant to be written in a way where if this movie was just about a boy and a girl talking online and struggling to admit that they like each other, everyone would find this movie tired, cliched, and just generic itself. But in this movie, it actually works for a couple specific reasons. For one, being gay is not his entire personality. He is a legit average guy who just wants to treat everyone the way he'd want to be treated, but he's not flamboyant. He doesn't dress in feminine clothes. In fact, there's a character like that in this movie just to differentiate between the two of them and acknowledge that while that stuff is okay too, even gay people are different amongst one another. And the second reason, something my sister brought up after we saw the movie, is that it feels a lot more refreshing from other gay kids in movies like this who are either contemplating suicide because they feel alone in the world, or if they're being targeted by older men just because they are gay. I was kind of worried that they were going to go in that direction about Simon contemplating suicide because I couldn't help but notice that on this chalkboard that he has in his bedroom, there's a game of Hangman in red chalk. And I'm kind of wondering, gee, is that like foreshadowing or something? But no, it's just there for no real reason. The rest of the cast is good, but in terms of depth, they don't nearly have as many interesting qualities as Simon does. And if they ever carry a scene, it's because the writing of their characters during those exact moments were really good. Jennifer Garner and Josh Duhamel in particular had two really good moments where they're talking about Simon over the suspicions they have about him and whether or not they'd be okay with accepting him. And I gotta be honest, I was in legit tears during those scenes because it did kind of remind me of conversations I had with my own parents because I had it tough in high school for a little bit. I mean, nowhere near as bad as anything that happens in this movie. I should make that part clear, but I don't know. I just could kind of relate to the fact that it was always nice to hear from your parents that no matter what, they always have your love and support, but they're also not afraid to tell you that the world is tough. You need to be ready to accept that and try to move on from it. So, yeah, those scenes were really effective the most for me, and I don't know, those themes are just so real that really any actor can pull off a scene like that. But the thing that kept this movie from being a great movie, from being a legit, actual groundbreaking movie, especially during the first 30 minutes, the dialogue is so cliched. It is full of it makes all the side characters look like the most generic hipsters I've ever seen. Like, seriously, they all speak very technically, especially during the more comedic moments, and it never felt realistic. It always felt tacked on. Like, one character looks at another and says, "Who do you think that closeted gay kid?" I'd say it's Marcus. He has this real big obsession with Les Mis, or There's one scene in particular involving a Halloween party and the costumes that these kids wear that just made me cringe. Oh, I'm post-election Barack Obama, and I'm just hoping that Donald Trump doesn't ruin my legacy. Check out my beard and my dress. I'm a Freudian slip. No? Nobody gets that one? Whatever, fuck it. The worst one of all was Tony Hale as the vice principal. What the fuck was that? I mean, seriously, he did not land a single joke throughout this entire movie, and from what I heard, my sister told me, this character wasn't even in the book. It almost seems like, well, this is a coming-of-age movie, we need a dorky teacher, let's get that guy from Arrested Development, he'd be perfect. No, he was shit in this. Wow, It's really hard to take a teacher seriously when they say, hey, I can't have students in the hallway being on Tinder. That's my job. It's just like, any teacher nowadays would be fired for something like that. And what pissed me off is, like, later on in the movie, he begins to get a little bit more serious. He wears, like, a rainbow flag pin on his suit, and I'm just like, okay, now he's taking things seriously. And then he's just like, you know, when I said you and I had one thing in common, it's just like, yeah, but we're cool, right? And it's just like, you fucking blew it. That's just... Now, to be fair, the second half of the movie does improve with the dialogue. The words that they say sound a lot more realistic, the stakes are raised up higher, characters curse a lot more. That's something I also don't like about teen movies. It's just that they ignore the fact that teenagers do curse up like a storm in real life just so they could get a good rating. But really, ignoring stuff like that and censoring yourself just for the sake of a rating just makes you look stupid, at least from a teenager's perspective, as someone who watched a lot of movies like that growing up. But yeah, during the first half of the movie, it almost seems like the writers of this movie looked at a bunch of Twitter and Facebook posts and just like, hey, these are what teenagers really sound like. Why don't we put this into the movie? And it's just like, no, not at all. It makes me speechless just how bad the dialogue can be sometimes. I'm so confused right now. Love, Simon is a good movie thanks to its acting, directing, and just how brutally honest it is towards its subject matter. What keeps it from being a great movie is just how unrealistic and tacked on the dialogue and teen movie stereotypes are. But I am still glad that I saw this movie, and I'm going to give Love, Simon a 3.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching, and if you've seen Love, Simon, what did you think about it? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, check out my other reviews at noperfectmovie.com. And once again, thank you all very much for watching. Take care.